Look, I even got the door. I got the door.
Here we are.
Good evening.
Hello. Whatever these ladies want.
Okay.
I want donut hose and Jennifer donut and a cappuccino.
There you go. Make it a large. Give her
For
extra
here
large.
or to go?
Here.
What do you want? For here? Whatever she
And
wants.
then
Got one of
Can I
those?
get a chocolate too? Can I get chocolate? Thank you.
Whatever they want. Okay?
Donut hose, baby.
Lots
Yeah,
of-
get the
you
donut
want
holes.
some donut holes.
Yep, this is the day to get everything
This
you
is the
want.
day that the Lord has made.
And that's a clip from Red Rocket. I'm delighted to say I've been joined by its writer and director and its editor, actually, as well, Sean Baker. Hello, Sean. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. Where do we speak to you today?
I'm in Los Angeles right now.
Okay. Well, it's very nice to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Thanks for talking to us. Who or what is the Red Rocket? Introduce us to your movie.
Well, Red Rocket is a film about a semi-washed up adult film star who is returning home to his small hometown of Texas City, where he's trying to sort of crawl back to his ex-wife, and because he's looking for shelter. And things play out where we get to see this relationship start to maybe perhaps mend until his old habits come back into play, and we see it all spiral and all fall apart. I'm sorry, I'm really terrible at pitching my own films, so
I've
I've
noticed, speaking to quite a few directors over the years, it's quite difficult to pitch your own movies.
Yeah, because and then once you do that basically to get financing, and then you don't have to ever think about it again until 2 years later when you're trying to sell your film, and you have to reacquaint yourself with what your film actually is.
So tell us about your lead character, then tell us about Mikey, because it does all kind of hang around him, as it were. No, that's the wrong phrase. Does all revolve around your lead character. Introduce us to Mikey, as played by Simon.
Sure. Well, I was doing research in the adult film world for a film I made before Tangerine, so 4 films back, called Starlet, and it also it focuses. It has certain elements that focus on the adult film world, and while I was spending time in that world and getting to understand the players of that world and the archetypes, I came across this archetype that I didn't know existed, male talent that essentially lives off of female talent in that world. And they even have a slang term applied to them, suitcase pimp. So when I started to meet a handful of suitcase pimps and realized they had a very similar way of thinking, and I found their way of thinking to be, quite complex and disturbing and fascinating on many levels, I was like, and I never had seen it portrayed before in film and TV. I wanted to tell a story about one of these guys. I wanted to tackle a character study of one of these gentlemen.
So on the one hand, I guess we're kind of familiar with an actor who might be a porn star, but it's this suitcase pimp that you're taking us into a totally new direction. But that does mean, just given that title, it does mean we're very uncomfortable with a lot of the way he behaves.
Oh, of course. I mean, he's doing things, whether he's conscious of it or not, he's having negative effects on other people's lives. And he uses other people. He's a hustler. Again, whether that comes from a place of maliciousness or just or survival, that's not really up to me to I'm just portraying this objectively. I guess I can expound upon it a bit. When I was doing research and hanging out with these guys, on the surface level, they're quite charming and appealing. I mean, they have to win you over, so they have this charm, this sense of humor that goes a far way. I was actually finding myself quite entertained while engaging with them, and even laughing along at some of these stories that, in hindsight, when I would go home at the end of the night, I would think about it and sort of beat myself up about it. Why was I laughing at these stories? They were pretty horrible, and some of their actions were pretty reprehensible. And yet I found myself again, entertained, and I wanted to take the audience and put the audience in that same mindset, the way I was thinking, very torn inside about what I was hearing, and so that was again one of the intentions about behind tackling this character.
So we can't really explore what Mikey is up to without introducing listeners to the 17-year-old character known as Strawberry in your movie, which is where the pimp gets out of the suitcase. Maybe, I don't know. So tell us about Strawberry.
Well, he sees potential in a young woman that he meets at a local donut shop. Always hustling. So he's looking to see how this can benefit him. And when their relationships begins to grow, he sees her as his ticket back into this industry in which he's burned every bridge. So that's how we went about that. I know not many people have probably seen the film, so I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but we definitely, we had consultants on the film, 4 of them being adult film performers, and then a sex worker from outside of that world. And they were instrumental on how we would tackle the female characters in this film, especially Strawberry, because they didn't want her to be one-dimensional, and I agreed with that. I didn't want to just tell this very black and white story of a big bad wolf and an innocent little lamb. That would have been a very easy film to make. Life is more complex than that. So speaking with my consultants on how to make her three-dimensional and fleshed out, and having her have agency, and putting and fleshing these characters and their story out enough where one can even argue that Strawberry is perhaps using Mikey as much as Mikey is using Strawberry. I wanted to get to that place where you could discuss these themes after seeing the film.
Because I guess one way of looking at what's going on the screen is that he is grooming her. Would that be the wrong? Would that be the wrong way or the right way to describe what's going on?
You could you could see it as grooming. You could see it as recruiting. That's the choice of words is up to you. I don't like to preach as a filmmaker. Actually, I'm trying to show it as objectively as possible and not condone or condemn. So, yeah.
But I guess what's important is that whatever we feel about what's going on screen, that we empathize with Mikey, and that we laugh with and we laugh at Mikey pretty much in the same way you were reacting to the suitcase pimps that you were telling us about earlier.
Yeah, that's very important for me. I think that's essential in all storytelling to get the audience to set it up in which the audience can empathize with even an anti-hero, because I think once we start to see ourselves in characters, it allows us as audience members to connect faster. Suspension of disbelief kicks in faster, and all along it seems as I think it's more a rewarding experience to be experiencing just human ways of being human,
And Mikey's played by Simon Rex. My guess is that most UK viewers will be new to him. Tell us why, because I think you've been wanting to work with him for a long time. Why did you choose him? Because he's sort of in pretty much every scene.
Yes, Simon Rex is one of those. I guess he's a Hollywood persona that hasn't, in my eyes, he wasn't really given that break he deserved. I always wondered why. I always wondered why Hollywood wasn't giving him media roles, because it was apparent to me throughout the years that he could tackle it and handle it. We're approximately the same age, so I remember when he had his big break on MTV. He was like the sole white boy on MTV Raps in the mid-90s, and then a few years later he hit on the scary movies and started becoming known in the comedy world. Throughout the last 2 decades he's been consistently entertaining me, but it was during the social media years, when he embraced new platforms like Vine, and he was impressing me with little 6-second videos, making me laugh. But I could see in those 6-second videos that he was also aware of his his delivery in general, and I knew he could take on a dramatic role just by watching those little 6-second videos. So it really was just about waiting until the right moment came about.
And I guess as you were watching him deliver this character on screen, you thought I was right. There you go. I told you.
I did actually feel that during he gave us a self tape before coming to meet us in Texas. I asked him to read one scene, and he was about 90% there in that self tape. So I offered him the role. He got on the road, and during the 3-day journey that he had to on his way to Texas from Joshua Tree, we spent time on the phone discussing the character, fleshing it out. And when he arrived in Galveston, Texas, I put him right in a rehearsal with Brie Elrod, and it was at that moment that it was a big relief, a big weight off of my shoulder, because I saw that these two were my anchors. You know, they already understood the character 99%, and it was just, and I was going to be surrounding them with first timers. So yes, I felt a big sigh of relief and like, okay, this is going to be good.
Well, it takes place through the 2016 presidential elections. We see Trump billboards. I think we hear Hillary Clinton on the radio or the television. The issues the characters aren't discussed by your characters, but what is the significance of placing it there?
I really would like that to be kept left up for interpretation, but it's also just about setting it. I like when stories and films give us not only a sense of place, but give us a sense of time. And that was a time that we've all lived through just recently. We all remember how we were feeling the summer of 16. And I think it's really just about, just grounding it in that moment. And then, there's obviously I'm dealing with the themes of politics, or one of the themes I'm dealing with is politics. And so it was obviously, politics was looming in the air there. And so, that was a few of the reasons.
Yes.
A few of the reasons why.
I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, Sean, that you have written and directed and edited this film. Do you feel you have to do all of those three things?
Yes, unfortunately. yeah, I kind of do. It's what gives my films a signature, and I think, I think that all three of those elements combined is what makes up one of my movies. A lot of filmmakers can relinquish, editorial, duties to an editor, and that's great. And I've seen amazing collaborations between, directors and editors. And unfortunately for me, though, it becomes 50% of my directing. I'm finding the film ultimately in post-production, so I need to be there to do it. And I find the pacing, especially with this film, which was a roller coaster. It was supposed to be a balancing act tonally, with the way that I described, the suitcase pimp earlier, having the audience feel different things at different times. So, I feel that it's in the edit that I find that balance. So yeah, it slows things down a bit for me. I'm not able to be as prolific because I spend about a year after making the film just editing it. But again, it's my signature, so it's hard for me to relinquish that.
Breakfast is being prepared for you in the background, Sean. Is that right?
I know. I'm so sorry. I've been.
No, it sounds very LA. It sounds terrific. There was just one other question I wanted to ask you, and that was that after the success of Florida Project, and so that's 2017, Willem Dafoe getting the Oscar nomination. I guess some people might have thought, well, you're going to carry on writing, directing, and editing, but maybe there would be a big, that it would have a huge budget. It would be a starrier film. Did you come close to that? Was that a consideration, or did you always know that Red Rocket was what you were going to do?
No. I was developing another film that actually got put on hold because of COVID, and it's a film that I hope to get back to soon. It was a bigger film that couldn't be actually tackled during a pandemic, and now it's subject matter that's hard to put out into the world while everybody's still thinking about COVID and Russia and other very important topics. So but in terms of just size and I often shoot myself in my own foot. It's like I want to work with big stars just because I actually enjoy them, but to watch them, I'm just as much of a fan of DiCaprio as everybody else, and would be honored to work with the guy. But at the same time, if a character for me is better fit to be played by a first timer because it ultimately helps me achieve authenticity a little bit more, I will go with that first timer and shoot myself in the foot. It just is the way that I work. I want to sleep at night. So, I will cast for who's appropriate, no matter what level of stardom. And so that's really why I found myself in this place. It's not like I'm not being offered more stuff. I am, I don't often entertain it or explore it, but, and also I just really, I look to filmmakers like, I look to a lot of European filmmakers, and I look at their careers and their filmographies, and I'm inspired by filmmakers who have sort of like stayed true to a vision and a signature, and everyone from Mike Leigh to Ken Loach to American filmmakers like Jarmusch. Jarmusch has had such an impact on not only my aesthetics, but the way I go about my career. And the ownership of my films and the budgeting of my films. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. I'm also intrigued to know, I'm intrigued at some stage to see the movie that you couldn't make and now you feel you can't make because of COVID and Russia. So if you've got a movie that is hitting both of those beats,
it will be done. It will be done soon. I just am also. It's just something I might have to wait a little bit longer for, because it was a larger budget film. It was about drug user activism in Vancouver. So it's something like Milk, which is tackling activism. I need hundreds of people to be on the street and so it's something that's even during the tail end of a pandemic, it's still quite tough. But I've also been very inspired by the making of Red Rocket, I have to say. I mean, like, it was a tiny, scrappy little film, but in hindsight, that all of those limitations really just blessed me with so many moments of serendipity and happy accidents that, quite honestly, if I can try that again, I want to. So we might make another smaller film before tackling this other one I mentioned.
Did your donut intake increase during the making of this movie?
It's so funny you asked that, because both with Tangerine and with Red Rocket, going into those locations, we had like a little pact around the crew. Hey guys, we're not going to eat these donuts, right? We're going to be good. We're going to be like responsible. And then by the end, the last few hours of the last day, we are pounding bear claws and everything else. I mean, like, yeah, we became naughty near the end.
Sean, we appreciate you speaking to us. Thank you very much indeed. All the best for Red Rocket. We appreciate you talking to us. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Simon. I appreciate it. Say hi to Mark for me.